This is Tyrese Halliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
What is up, Pacer Nation? Happy Monday, and welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. And after taking a few episodes off, he is back to join us for 4 straight this week. It's your boy. The man is peppin' and steppin', Michael J. Facci. Facci, what's up, brother?
Ooh, man, you know I'm itching to just break out that pep in the step line when the time comes. I really am. It's been too long, but always feels good to be back. And, I think with this, while we know we're in the quieter days of summer, there was still some Pacers news that did happen recently. Not always for the better, but it is news nonetheless. Alex,
Yeah.
are you ready to kind of hop into it or what?
Well, let's wait a few seconds because we have some time. This episode's not going to be incredibly detailed or deep, anything like that for the 2 topics we have to discuss. But first things first, Bob Schmidt joined me last Friday.
Great guy.
And we ended up doing 5 candidates each that need to have breakout years in the Eastern Conference. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen. But I did replay the parody song that he wrote for us, Facci, and the peppin' and steppin' line. It gets me every time because you only said that one time ever. Oh, I'm peppin' and I'm steppin'. Like, you always say the pep and the step, but that one, it just hit like totally on a different level. Great. And I was like, man, I wish you would do that more often.
Hey, it's memorable. Maybe I'll have to, make it happen a little bit more. But yeah, sometimes one time is all you really needed to make an impact. Make a statement. And the peppin' and steppin', oh yeah, clearly for it to make the song, that's awesome. Bob, always a great guy to have on the show. So hey, sorry I missed that, but Bob, appreciate you filling in.
Yeah, it was good, and we ended up. You would have died if you would have known how long it took us to get that.
Oh man, how long?
We talked. We started at 9:30, recording time start. We talked for probably 45 to 50 minutes before we pushed record.
That's a whole episode right there.
Then we recorded for an hour and 17 minutes. So I didn't get to bed till close to 1 o'clock that morning on Friday morning. So I was incredibly tired the next day. But it's part of life. You just move on. Had the weekend to recover. But I will say this: last week, Facci, some exciting news for me personally.
Oh,
I ended up buying tickets to go see John Mayer in September.
Wow, you had the itch for a little bit. John Mayer had come up maybe once or twice. I don't know if it was off air, on air, anything of the sort. Ever since I think we had our guest on, we were talking some music.
Seth.
Yep. You had the itch. You made it happen. I think it's great because I think when it comes to a concert, sometimes the concert's not going to be for a while, but you never actually regret buying the tickets.
Yeah.
So I think it's awesome. I don't go to enough concerts. When is the concert?
It's September 26th in Youngstown, Ohio. So it's about a month away.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? It's only like a 5.5 hour drive. It's about an hour away from my aunt and uncle's house, so I can crash there afterwards. So and not have to pay for a hotel. So I'm like, it's great. I've got a buddy of mine, Gentry. He's going with me, so we're gonna have a good time. And yeah, I just, I'm like, I've been stupidly deep diving into all of his stuff recently, like his discography. And I'm like, you know what? Who knows how much longer he's going to be touring? I guess he does or is working on a new album right now, is what he said on Instagram Live. So I'm excited to see what kind of new music he can put out in 2026, 2027, whenever it might be. But the last album he put out was 2021. So
wow, I didn't realize it's been that long. Well, what I will say about John Mayer, seen him twice in concert. What I had respect for him was he was sitting down a lot during the concert. I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is kind of a little bit of a weaker performance. And he honestly let us know on the microphone it was not feeling well, didn't want to cancel, wanted to give you guys a show. And then the very next night, it was revealed that he had COVID and he had to cancel his next week of performances.
Wow.
And I'm like, that could have been us. We could have had the tickets. He could have canceled on us. And the fact that he battled through that concert, knowing that he was probably struggling, not feeling well. And we still enjoyed it. Great show. But I felt like that was a guy that easily could have just threw in the towel, moved on. I probably would have had a bad taste in my mouth. Like, John Mayer, he quit on us. I don't know about that. Instead, I know he toughed it out. And for that, I do have respect.
Yeah, no, I just, when I listen to him play guitar, I'm just so blown away. I think he is easily, hands down, the most talented guitar player of the 21st century.
That's a musician right there. That's not just someone who's going to be singing some pop songs that maybe he didn't write or anything like that. Like, that is a musician.
Yeah, he's a singer-songwriter. I mean, at his finest. I think that if you just listen to how he's evolved as a musician and singer too, I think he's gotten better as I'm sure he's gotten better every time you just get better with when you do it all the time. But I think as a singer, whenever he had that part that, like, I think it was like 2012, 2013, like he ended up taking like a year off, 2 years off to kind of like fix his voice and had some vocal damage done. I think when he figured that situation out and how to sing again, he may have became a better singer. But like I like his voice a lot. Don't get me wrong. I think he's got a great voice, but I think his guitar playing is like on another level compared to his singing.
Hey, it's great. If you blinked or you spaced out and you're wondering, am I listening to a John Mayer podcast? No, you're not. All right, it's the Indiana Pacers. Hey, we could go on a tangent from time to time. If you haven't seen John Mayer in a while, play some of the old hits. It just reminded me. Last thing I'll say on this, you mentioned 2021. I guess that is when he came out with his last album, because I remember being like, I don't know these songs. Like, play the hits, play the good stuff, and he knew, play a little bit of the new stuff. But everyone's here for the old stuff, and that he did, and that was the stuff that everyone could sing along to. But when you're talking about playing the new stuff versus playing the old stuff, what I felt was great, little transition over here, was the Pacers coaching staff. It had been staying the same for a while. We knew familiarity, all right? It's being comfortable. A little bit of a change recently. I'm not a man who likes too much change. But Alex, tell us about some of the change that just happened, over the past weekend that was announced.
Yeah, so it kind of came out of left field because we had heard a couple of weeks ago that the New York Knicks were looking for an associate head coach, and Mike Weinar, an assistant for the Indiana Pacers, was one of those names that had been mentioned as a candidate to be with the Knicks coaching staff. However, about a week after that was reported, it said that he pulled out, was no longer an option. They ended up turning to the Charlotte Hornets assistant, Chris Gent, to become Mike Brown's new associate head coach with the Knicks. And so I thought, okay, that's interesting. Mike Weinar wants to stay in Indiana. Like, that makes a lot of sense. He's been with Carlisle his entire career, all the way back in Dallas. They won a championship together. So, like, there's just a lot of strong ties between Carlisle and Mike Weinar. And then all of a sudden on Friday, I'm blown away when I get the notification. The Pacers have mutually agreed to part ways with Mike Weinar. And, Carlisle put out a statement. I don't have that statement pulled up. I don't know if you do or not, but
I do. So he said Mike Weinar has been a trusted friend and loyal colleague for 17 plus years. As a coach, he is a proven winner with 2 national championship rings with Florida men's basketball in 2006 2007 and an NBA championship ring from our 2011 championship run in Dallas. Mike also played a major role in this year's historic run to the NBA Finals with the Pacers.
Yeah, so nothing negative, obviously, here. So now the question is, why now? Where is he going? What's going on? And so I've dug around. I've tried to get some answers. I've got nothing back. I am as clueless as the next person. I have some thoughts, but I'm curious your thoughts on this news.
First, I immediately, my head went to the Knicks. It went, okay, hey, you know what? They had interest before. You know what? Maybe if you've been with Carlisle for 17 years and there's not an opportunity to be like an associate head coach or anything, maybe this is the way to move on up. But obviously, you mentioned that role's already been filled with the Knicks. I saw like a Knicks fan site just kind of writing an article about how, Mike just left the Pacers, but no connection there. Haven't seen him linked to a team. Don't know if this is, I don't know. Maybe this is for a job opportunity. Maybe it's not. I think we'll have to wait to find out over maybe the next few days. I think that with training camp starting up not too far from now, you would imagine that this is, it's either now or next year to really make a move. And immediately I thought, okay, well, what do the Pacers do to kind of, fill this gap? Because I thought what would have been great was the familiarity that the players had with this coaching staff. Just to do a quick run through, obviously you have Rick Carlisle, and then as your lead assistant coach, your associate head coach, it's Lloyd Pierce. The assistant coaches were Jim Boylan, Jane Busek, and Mike Weinar. Those three were like, and then there was the assistant coaches for player development, Maurice Baker, Gennaro Pargo, Isaac Jakob, those three. So now the Pacers need to fill that spot. And obviously, like we said, training camp coming up soon. It's interesting to see how they'll go about filling that. Curious, A, I guess, what were your thoughts on maybe why Mike might have left? And then B, how do you think they'll fill this spot?
Yeah, I'm going to answer B first because you just brought up the names. And I think Isaac Jakob, just coached the Summer League team to one of their better records since Carlisle's taken over. He's really good friends with Tyrese Halliburton. He's been around in the league for a while. I believe that he actually got his day started out with the Lakers and Kobe. So that's how, he's been in assistant coaching video stuff for a while. So it's kind of interesting. It might have been more on like the latter ends of Kobe's career.
Hey, either way. Yeah,
But he was with Tyrese in Sacramento. So it would not surprise me if they wanted to create a spot for him potentially to be on Rick's coaching staff. So that's just me speculating. Have no idea. That would just be my first guess on who I think would get that nod there as the next person to get a spot on the actual coaching staff, and not more of like a video coordinator, that kind of person. Now, with that being said, when it comes to why I think Weinar might have left, look, I don't know. Maybe there is another job that is open that hasn't been reported and somebody is pursuing him. That could make some potential sense. But I also wonder if there's something going on personally, because we've seen that happen before. If you go back, me and you were talking about this off air about 4 or 5 years ago when I believe Nate Bjorkgren came over. Bill Bano was supposed to be one of the assistants that stayed with the staff. And a lot of people respected Bill Bano in the locker room like the players did. He ended up losing both of his parents. And it was just emotionally draining for him, and he just could not commit to it. So I do believe that there is potential, something going on there personally, where maybe he felt like he needed to remove himself from the duties of coaching. I don't know, but that would be potentially my guess, is maybe there's something bigger than basketball here, just because of them mutually, parting ways after he was just in the running. So I don't know what's going on. I'm speculating, but that is where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely not. And look, at the end of the day, I have no cold hard facts, but like when you've been with Rick Carlisle for 17 years and the Pacers are coming off of very successful seasons, this is not something they just fell out of favor and the Pacers are moving on. No, I would imagine that this was, whatever, it was Mike's decision to be able to make. So, we'll wait and until we hear a little bit more, see where he lands, see if he lands somewhere. If he doesn't, that's clearly his choice. He's obviously very talented enough. If he was talented enough to be in the running for the Knicks associate head coach spot, he's talented enough to be able to land on many other coaching staffs. So yeah. I'm bummed out because anyone who's been with Carlisle through thick and thin is clearly Rick's right-hand man. Like, that's going to be something that's going to be a little bit of adjustment. I mean, imagine the trust that Rick has in Coach Weinar for 17 years. That's wild. So it's going to be a hard position to fill. I know that there's probably people that immediately go like, what about James Johnson or this or that? Look, I don't know how this is going to shake out. I don't even know if James Johnson wants to be an actual coach or anything of that sort. But nonetheless, this is something where you'd be excited to see who the Pacers look to fill this coaching staff with. And I've kind of worried for a little bit is if the Pacers have another good year, could Lloyd Pierce be in the running to be a head coach somewhere else? And then that would be really unfortunate to kind of see this coaching staff kind of getting, plucked away little by little.
And while you were away, obviously, Rick Carlisle did sign an extension with the Pacers as well. Got another extension.
Great. So fantastic.
It is kind of interesting timing when you see Rick just sign the extension. Mike decided to stay with the Pacers, and then all of a sudden they part ways. Just some question marks. And I will say this, like I posted this on Twitter, and I hope I wasn't oversharing by anything, but like we have access to the back hallways by the locker room area, and where you go out on the court, it's by the visitors' locker room. So as I was walking back that way to go to the media room after they had won the Eastern Conference Finals, I saw Mike Weinar sitting in a chair outside the Knicks locker room. And he was just emotional, right? Because he was so happy the team had just won. Like, you've seen pictures of how excited Mike was and screaming on the bench with the guys and things like that. But, he was just so overwhelmed with happiness and excitement. And so I just told him congratulations. He basically said job's not done, but he was there to greet some of his, colleagues that are on the coaching staff of the Knicks to just tell them congratulations and what are, great fought series, really enjoyed, competing against you. Just a super nice guy. And like, that's the one thing I love about Mike Weinar is like him and Obi Toppin, they worked out together before every game, and he would always pull a young fan on the road or at home to get them to throw Obi a lob pass at the end of his workout. And if the kid messed up on the first throw, they would try like 4 or 5 times. And so they would never just make the kid feel bad. It was just like, you know what? We're going to make sure these fans feel special. And I just love that about him. And then on a personal level, I mean, I don't know how many times he came up to me, shook my hand, and walked across the court. No other coach on the coaching staff has done this, so I'm just going to throw it out there. Like, I obviously really appreciate the kindness that he showed towards me, but he would walk up to me and just say, hey, how's little man doing?
That's nice.
Really, how's your family doing? It's great to see the pictures on social media, things like that. Then I'd ask him how his family's doing. He's got 2 boys and his wife. So I just thought it was super kind that he would always come out of his way, not every game, but multiple times. I mean, I would say at least 4 or 5 times from the time my son was born throughout the playoffs, just to see how my family and I were doing. So just kind of shows you the class act guy that he is. And so that's why I'm saying if it's not a basketball related reason, I'm really just sending my positive vibes and good thoughts to the Weinar family if there's something going on deeper than that. But if not, and I'm just speculating here, if not, then whatever coaching decision he's making for himself and his family, I hope it's a good decision for them, and I hope that they, find a landing spot where he can have the most success, because maybe he is going to end up being an associate head coach somewhere. We just don't know yet.
Maybe. And you know what? If he is, we got to root for him. It's just like, look, everyone has the dream of more. I don't think anyone ever gets into, any type of profession to, be an assistant coach. You want to be the head coach. Don't be a bench player. No, you want to be a starter. You want to be a champion. This. So, like, hey, just like anything else, I think sometimes we lose track of, people switching jobs. It's what human beings do. And that man's been loyal to Rick for a long, long time. I hope that everything works out, with whatever his decision is. We'll wish him nothing but the best, and we appreciate the time that he had in Indiana.
All right, Facci, the next thing we're going to talk about today is there was a little bit of news that was actually very important to the Eastern Conference, potentially the Western Conference. We'll see what happens. But Malik Beasley, a player that was accused of betting on games and was in this whole entire process of trying to figure out if he was going to be guilty or not guilty, whatever. I don't know the right terminology for it. I'm not the greatest when it comes to the judicial terms, but regardless, there was some question marks on whether he'd be able to play this year, eligible to play this year. So the Pistons went in a different direction, not knowing what they could offer him and not knowing if they could offer him anything. He was set to make a really nice payday. Shot around 41.6% from 3 last year, was second, I believe, in 6 man of the year voting or most improved. I forget what the category was.
He was second in 3-pointers made. That Anthony Edwards beat him out on the last day of the season. In terms of like 6 man, he very well could have.
He finished in second in one of the player votings. I forget which one it was. I looked it up on Friday.
I'm looking at it right now. He played all 82 games. He only started 18, so definitely qualified to be in the running. So
that's what it was.
Yeah. So 16.3 points per game. Just to kind of go through it, he shot 41.6% from 3 on over 9 attempts per game. So I did some math on this. Like I said, Anthony Edwards beat him out with on 3-pointers made in the last game of the season, but Anthony Edwards was attempting more threes. Malik Beasley had the highest 3-point percentage of anybody in the top 20 in terms of 3-pointers made. So he was someone who was as good as it was last year in terms of 3-point shooting.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting is the Pistons were not able to offer him the big contract that they wanted to, potentially because of his situation. They go out and get Duncan Robinson, and now he's probably the most coveted free agent out there. And we saw from Clutch Points, Brett Seigel did tie the Pacers as one of the teams, as well as the Knicks, interested in his services. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on the potential of adding Malik Beasley to this roster.
Couple different ways to look at it. One, does Malik Beasley make you better? Yes, absolutely. I've talked about how I don't like where the 3-point shooting is on this team.
Mm-hmm.
You lost Halliburton, you lost Turner. Those are 2 of your top 3-point shooters. Then all of a sudden it's a little bit unknown after that. Obviously you have guys like Aaron Nesmith who are really good 3-point shooters, but there is who's going to step up? Is it going to be Ben Shepherd? Is it going to be, could Jarris do it again, but on a higher volume? There's those type of questions. So the talent standpoint absolutely makes sense. Financially, the Pacers have the money to do it. All right. I just want to read off some of the teams. So Keith Smith, friend of the show, had tweeted this out. Here's the teams that could offer him more than Detroit has at that $7.2 million, what Detroit has left they could offer him. You got Brooklyn Nets. $15 million in cap space. I don't think he makes a lot of sense for the Brooklyn Nets. Charlotte has their mid-level exception. It's I don't know. I don't really know what Charlotte's doing. Chicago, sure, that could happen. Indiana has $13.5 million of their non-tax mid-level exception. They also have the disabled player exception as well from Tyrese Halliburton. Then you're looking at Miami and Sacramento, both have $7.3 million of the mid-level. You got OKC at 8.5 of the mid-level. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. They already have a championship team. And then the Washington Wizards have their full mid-level exception. I don't think it makes sense for them. So the Pacers are in short term, I know I'm saying a lot here, short term, they have the money to do it. He would make them a better team. Character-wise is where I feel like it kind of tips the scale. We've seen that the Pacers don't typically, if you're not going to fit a certain like blend or mesh of the team, mesh with the rest of the team the right way, Indiana does not like to ruffle the feathers or anything of that sort.
No, and I think, and I'm not sure, so this is really bad podcasting homework for me. I have not looked into where this would put the Pacers at salary-wise or salary cap-wise if they were to sign him, right? Because I don't know where they're at in terms of like first apron, second apron, so they probably couldn't even offer him the full. They wouldn't offer him the full 13. I think
they would not, because then they'd be a taxpayer. You're not going to go into the tax for Malik Beasley.
No.
You're just not. Yeah,
they would find a way to give him money that I think that they can afford. The other teams can't, because they give him part of the mid-level. But it's just
they could.
And I wonder if he'd rather play for a team that has a chance to win a little bit more. Now I know Indiana's without Halliburton, but
the teams that I read, I mean, it ain't great. If you look at those teams, Brooklyn, Charlotte, Chicago, Sacramento, Washington, that's kind of gross. That's
unless he takes a minimum deal and goes to a contender, which could potentially pay him more eventually. I mean, if he goes to the Knicks, I mean, I think he played for Mike Brown in Sacramento. I could be wrong on that, but he was in Sacramento at a hot minute.
So, no, I think you're wrong on that.
Was he already gone? Was he already gone to Milwaukee?
Yeah, so he actually never played for Sacramento. No, he never did. I'm not sure who
he played for Sacramento. I feel so stupid.
Started with the Nuggets, then went to the Timberwolves, where he had some really big seasons. Went to Utah for a little bit, maybe. I don't know, maybe that's what you're thinking a little bit. Lakers, and then the last 2 seasons, he's been with division rivals, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Detroit Pistons.
Man, why? There's somebody on the Kings roster that I'm thinking had connections to the Bucks for some reason.
You're probably thinking like Malik Monk or something. I don't really know what you're thinking about.
No, I'm not thinking of Malik Monk. It's gonna drive me nuts now. I'm gonna have to look this up while we're talking, because I want to know that player that I'm thinking of, because this is so frustrating.
If he goes to the Knicks on a minimum deal, the Knicks just had a great offseason with Yabusele, Jordan Clarkson on a minimum deal, and then Malik Beasley on a minimum deal. All of a sudden, they go from a team that had no depth to, hey, you got some really solid depth.
I know who it was. It's Terrence Davis. That's who I'm thinking of.
Oh, I mean, not
Why was I thinking that? That's so terrible.
Yeah. It's kind of like, okay, yeah.
Once I saw the roster, I said, oh, that's who I was thinking of. Okay, that's ridiculous.
Not quite the same, but hey, at least you found that out. That could have bothered you.
Man, that's so funny.
Well, but the last 2 seasons, Malik Beasley has shot over 41% from 3. It's not a fluke. He's doing it on volume. This is a guy that year after year pretty much, honestly, gets up about 8 or more threes per game. So he is a high volume, high accuracy 3-point shooter for his career. He's a 39% shooter. So from that standpoint, yes, obviously it makes the Pacers better. From the other standpoint, character issues, like it sounds like this is a guy that wasn't even paying his own rent. It sounded like he owed money everywhere, and it's like, come on, you're making millions of dollars in the NBA. Like that's more of a bad judgment, I would say. But I just don't see the Pacers making this move, even if it makes sense.
I think they'd be interested, because they do desperately need 3-point shooting.
They do.
So I wouldn't rule it out, because when you lose Halliburton, number 3 from the Bucks, you lose your 2 of your best 3-point shooters.
Yeah.
And Jarris Walker, I think it was more of a flash in the pan. We'll see, because when he came into the league, nobody thought he could shoot, and all of a sudden he could shoot lights out. Okay, with a bigger role, will he be able to do that? I mean, maybe he will. I'm not saying he can't. I'm just wondering if that's the case. But I just think having a guy that is such a knockdown 3-point shooter, and Beasley, it does make a lot of sense. And what's really funny is Beasley and the Pacers, the rivalry that's kind of been there from his time with Milwaukee and Detroit. It would be interesting to see him in blue and gold, on the other side, and getting into it with Giannis with the Pacers. It would just add more to the Bucks Pacers rivalry, Pistons Pacers rivalry. So I would be for it, and I think it weakens other teams if you have that kind of player on your roster as well. And I always do this, and I'm sorry if it's driving people nuts, but if you sign up for $8 to $9 million, he's a very tradable contract. And I think a lot of teams would really want a guy that can shoot like that, especially if he's playing well. So I don't know. And the last thing I'll say, I like the competition. If you bring in somebody that can compete for minutes, it's going to make Shep and it's going to make Furphy better and it's going to make Mathurin better. Because if Mathurin does have somebody that's shooting the ball like that so well and maybe fits in the system better, because he's a decent defender, there's times where you could see the Pacers potentially close with Mathurin on the bench and Beasley in that spot next to Nesmith. And I think that would push Mathurin and make him feel like he has maybe more of a people, trying to get into his position as that starting shooting guard, because I don't really feel like he's going to feel threatened by Jarris or Furf or Shep.
No.
So I think that a Beasley could push Mathurin to be not more of a complete player, but like it'll push him competitively to another level, I think.
No, I definitely agree with that. I don't think that there is the talent behind Mathurin to make him sweat. Like if Mathurin's not playing great for maybe Rick standards, but he's still averaging 17 points per game, it's like, okay, well, you're not really going to bench him for Shepherd to give you 6 points per game or something like that. So but yeah, I do like your point though also, and I know we've talked about this before, you're always thinking like, well, you could always trade him down the line. Yeah, like here's the thing, if you did get him, you did bring him in at like $8 million, and I want to say, and I'm wrong, I know it's not an accurate number. I think the Pacers had roughly about $7 million below the tax. So like it's somewhere in that range. Yeah, it's somewhere in that range. So the Pacers had that, and then you did at the deadline, you were to combine him with a little bit bigger of a contract. Now you are able to bring in a player who's making, $10, $12 million, something of that sort, or just a bigger deal. So that's when things could get interesting. But yeah, I would totally be on board for this. Like I really would. This would get me excited. Is he going to drastically change the outcome of your season? No, but I think that he does give the Pacers like a real 3-point threat, a guy that could totally give you probably, he doesn't need to start, but could give you 15 points per game off the bench, anything of that sort. And I think it makes the Pacers on a 1-year deal that much better short term.
Yeah, I'm still looking this up, Facci. So I'm just curious because like, if there's any other shooters out there, like we've talked about them trading for shooters before, and if you can get him, that'd be really important to me, just because you want to have somebody that can do it. So I'm looking here at SpotTrack.
That's what I was about to pull up.
So all right. So their cap space, they're $35 million over the cap right now, but it looks like they have 13.5 million of first apron space. So I don't really know if that's including everything or not, but that could also include, that probably doesn't include bonuses. It probably doesn't include, it might not include the guaranteed contract of one Tony Bradley. So I'm not sure exactly, but it looks like right now they're at 190,523,021 is where they're at now, in terms of what they have overall, with cap holds, active roster, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I mean, it looks like the first apron maximum is 195, which would make them total allocations 182. This is really terrible podcasting right here, if you're just reading a website. But it looks like 13.5 million is what SpotTrack is saying they have in first apron summary. So, and first apron space. So I would assume they don't want to get to that threshold. I would say probably closer to 10 million.
Yeah, and then we've talked about it before. We had Ted Wu on the show and Chad, that it's like the Pacers like optionality, and sometimes when a player like Malik Beasley all of a sudden comes about, it is nice to have some cap space available. So I just think that when you're looking at the teams that I mentioned that could potentially be in the running, like sure, Malik Beasley wants to get paid, and if Brooklyn's just going to offer their remaining $15 million, he's probably going to take it, just because it sounds like he's got some potential money issues right now and just missed out on a big payday. But it all depends on, does he want to go to a competitive team, or does he just want the highest amount of money available? Because this guy really did miss out on a big potential payday. It seemed like he could have had, I saw like potentially like a 4-year, $64 million, that type of contract being floated out there, which ends up being, some pretty good money, right around like 16 million or so. So it's unfortunate for him, but at the same point, if he goes to a winner, balls out, he could sign a 1-year deal and hit free agency next year when more teams do have, more cap space available.
All right, 2 questions I'm going to ask you to kind of wrap this podcast up here, Facci.
We got
Give me a percentage of what you think is the likelihood of the Pacers agreeing to a deal with Malik Beasley.
15 to 20%.
Okay.
I don't see it happening right now. I just think that the Pacers, for whatever reason, are just like very content to say, I want to see the internal growth. I want to get answers. And you can make an argument. You bring in Malik Beasley for 1 year and he's not going to be part of longer term. It could stunt the growth of some other players. Like, what if you never did get the full final answer on Mathurin because Malik Beasley came in here for 1 year and, just kind of, I don't know, things got a little complicated. So I don't see it happening. 15 to 20% is what I got. But what about you?
Okay. So I'm going to say 35%.
Okay.
A little higher. Still, don't think it's likely, but I'm going to say a little higher just because I think he fits the system pretty well.
He does. Yeah.
Number one. And I think when Haliburton comes back, he could be a huge piece off the bench. And he's already shown he can. He's comfortable being a sixth man. And I think they could potentially use somebody like that. So that to me would be another reason why. But I think money-wise, they can offer him more than other teams right now. This season, there's probably a chance at more playing time than other teams potentially have too, especially those that are trying to compete. I don't know. The fact that Indiana did watch Victor Oladipo work out in Vegas and they need guard help with Haliburton being out. I know he's not a point guard, but he could still probably help bring the ball up and run the offense. I do wonder, is this somebody they're a little intrigued by?
From a basketball standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. It really does. But when you're talking about, playing with Haliburton, there's never going to be a playing with Haliburton. He'll be gone by
unless he comes back next year.
I know, but it already just feels like this is 1 year or no.
They'd have his bird rights.
Yes, they would, which means anything's possible.
And if they lose Mathurin in free agency, he could be his replacement. Yeah. I'm just saying. And he might fit better. I'm not saying you don't want to do that. I'm just saying that could be
you just rubbed some people wrong.
I said if they lose him in free agency, that's all I said.
I know.
I didn't say trade him.
But it's like, I don't want this to be like, oh, Mathurin, we got Mathurin at home. We already got Malik Beasley. It's like, no. I think he would be like this year in like a year where you're feeling like you're lacking some, some extra oomph. I think it would be nice to have Malik Beasley because the Pacers would be a little bit more dangerous from an offensive standpoint. Could you imagine the knockdown shooting capabilities of Aaron Nesmith and Malik Beasley both shooting 40% from three? That would be the type of shooters that you want around Andrew Nembhard. Make his job just a little bit easier. So that would
Jay
be fun.
Huff and Pascal or Obi and Pascal.
I mean, think about that. Now
some floor spacing.
Yes,
some floor spacing.
And
then my second question, which is kind of going to piggyback off what you were just saying, if the Pacers did make this signing, would you feel good about it?
I would very much be excited, pretty quickly. I'd be like, all right, great.
So you wouldn't have concerns about the character issues. You wouldn't be a little bit hesitant about him messing up the vibes.
I would know that that's a possibility. I really would. And I think that the Pacers have done such a good job. Think about this. I'm not trying to throw the guy under the bus, but the last bad character guy that I could remember that Indiana brought in was Tyreek Evans. Tyreek Evans, to me, was very talented, but we also heard that Tyreek Evans that year had been late to practice a couple of times. We know he had some other issues. Yeah, it was one of those where it was bad. It was really bad.
Tyreek Evans kicked out of the league for drug use.
And he has not made it back. I have not seen the Pacers touch someone with a 10-foot pole since of that category like this. And I think a lot of people probably kind of blacked out the Tyreek Evans Pacers era, that 1 year where it just was a bad fit. But, he was coming off of a really good year with Memphis where he averaged 19 points per game. And I was excited about that signing. And I think that ever since then, I've kind of been Indiana, you know what? They prioritize good players with great character. And we haven't had any issues ever since.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about Beasley because does he have any other off court issues? Did he do anything
No, it's you haven't heard of any there's no assault or anything. And I'm
nothing like that. It was just the gambling stuff, right?
it seems to be the gambling, and that he owes apparently like a lot of money to just about everywhere. Apparently, like had been paying his dentist and his rent. Maybe these stories are overblown. I'm just going off of what I've heard.
The Pacers will do their due diligence if they're actually
will.
interested.
If they sign someone, I'm going to imagine that they've really looked into it before and had a lot of guys come on board to say, hey, either we're in on this, or if someone's out, we're all out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think I'd be okay with it. I think I would actually, maybe excited is the wrong word, but I would be intrigued by the fit.
Intrigued's a great word. Excited is like, at the end of the day,
it's a little overkill. I'm not excited.
Like, actually, if you think about this, Malik Beasley is the guy that played with an ankle monitor on his ankle when he was in Minnesota. It's not the best sign.
So it wasn't Terrence Davis? I'm just kidding.
No. So it's not the best sign, but at the same point, it's kind of like, all right, that's probably why Indiana's not gonna make this signing happen.
Yeah, I'm not getting anybody's hopes up, but I do think it would be a fascinating fit. So I don't know. But yeah, just an interesting kind of news dump Friday. I mean, I thought about coming on Saturday and talking about it, or even doing a TikTok short video, but I was like, nah, we can just save it for Monday. I was just really, caught off guard by the Mike Weinar stuff. And then you see Malik Beasley situation, like just flip like that from potentially not being in the league this year to, wow, this whole entire situation might've cost him a really nice payday. And like, if everything comes back, we didn't do anything wrong, then I feel like he could have a lawsuit for, I don't know what the correct terminology is again, but like they just cost him a ton of money. So just a bummer for him in that regard, but also like, play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, right? Like, so
that is what they
don't
say.
Put yourself in those situations, right?
No, you can't. And I just feel like, man, these guys having money issues when they're making so much money. It's really wild. I just think you got to surround yourself with the right people, and you'll be in good hands. But for Malik Beasley, I think that's someone that probably will look to sign with the team shortly. And not a lot of suitors. Unfortunate for him because he did set himself up for a good payday. But hopefully everything works out. You never want to root against anybody or this or that. I'm glad he was cleared. But man, those charges came at a really bad time. It felt like it was like a day or two before free agency. So rough stuff, but hey, if the Pacers sign him, I'd be intrigued, like you said, but I'm going to hold it at a very low probability.
All right, everybody. We're going to be pepping and stepping our way out of here for this episode. Hopefully you guys enjoy today's show. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss tomorrow's episode because me and Facci are doing one word to describe each player on the Pacers roster. Now, I don't know if Facci did all 18, if he did 15. Did he do any extras? I don't know. I did all 18 just to make sure.
All 18. Did all 18? I can't tell you how I know it's going to go because it's like, look, sometimes, a word here or there could be boring, it could be wrong, but I went with the first word that really came to mind, and we're going to let it fly.
I did a lot of research on this on Sunday afternoon because I wanted to make sure that I came up with some unique words that'll help all of us learn. It'll be a little bit of an education and a Pacers conversation on the next episode. Right. But Facci, if people are not already, please give us or please follow us on social media at PacersPodSCP. You're at _FACCI. I'm at Alex Golden NBA. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. And if you are listening to this on Apple or Spotify, hit us up with a 5-star rating and review. Let us know what you guys think about the show in the comments section. And if you want to be a fan of the week, email me at alexgoldenNBA@gmail.com, and I will make sure that we coordinate something like that. I do already have at least 4 or 5 people probably in the queue to want to come on the show, but we've got plenty of time till the season starts. So try to do one a week. Last week we had Rooster on. We got a guest already lined up for this week. So good and fun times coming for your fan interaction here on the podcast. But with that being said, Facci, if you're hoping that the Pacers can find some three-point shooting within their roster if they don't get Beasley on the roster, and hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go Pacers.